To do a camshaft swap on a 3406E or C15 Caterpillar, the first thing you've got to do is get the radiator, charge air cooler, and AC condenser out of the way. The reason for that is that the camshaft won't come out of the top of the engine. It has to come out of either the front or the back. Obviously you can't take it out of the back because the cab's in the way, so it has to come out of the front. I won't actually take the AC condenser off the truck. I don't want to open the system up because it's working fine. So I'll take it loose from the charge air cooler and fold it back up on top of the engine. And then I'll pull the radiator and charge air cooler off. And then when I get that done, I'll hang the AC condenser by the hoist to hold it up out of my way while I'm swapping the cams out. Having to pull the radiator and all this off is the worst part of the whole deal in my opinion. But it's got to be done, and that's what I'll start with. Alright, so here's what this looks like so far. There is the AC condenser laying up on top of the engine, and there is the radiator and charge air cooler hanging from the hoist. The next thing I'll do is set that down on the shop floor, and then I'll come back and grab a hold of this AC condenser and hang it in here somewhere where it's out of the way as good as I can get it. And then once I get that done, I'm going to come up here and pull the fan hub off. As you can see, it'll have to come off in order to get the peanut cover off. And I'm going to be changing this fan hub out for a different one that I've got. That one's missing some friction material in there. I am also going to change the crank damper out. I've got a brand new Vibertech crank damper to go on this. That's the old original 750,000 mile, 19 plus year old damper. So the rubber inside of it is bound to be bad. I'm not necessarily convinced that bad crank dampers are what break crankshafts, but I'm not necessarily convinced that they aren't what break crankshafts either. So I've got one. This is definitely the time to put it on while it's this easy to do, so I'm going to go ahead and change mine out. I'll show you how to get these crank dampers apart from the pulleys. There's more than one way you can do this, but this is the way I normally do it. It's quick and easy. So you just block it up to where the pulley will go down in between the blocks and let it hang there by the damper. And then you take another big square block that will go and fit in the recessed area of that damper like that on top of the part of the pulley that protrudes through. And then you take the BFH, I'll let you figure out what that stands for, and you smack this block on top and knock the pulley out of there. Okay, the radiator and charge air cooler's over there on the ground. AC condenser's hanging up here out of the way. I've got the fan hub off and the crank damper and crank pulley off. I won't put any of that back on until after I do the cam swap. So I'm pretty much ready to get into the engine now. The only other thing I'm going to take off is the intake. So I'll take it off here where it comes out of the cab on both sides and then up here at the front. Get that all out of the way. And when I get that done, I'll be ready to pull the valve covers off and then pull the peanut cover off. I think I've covered this before, but these peanut cover bolts are notorious for wanting to be stuck, these Torx-headed screws here. And they're actually not a regular Torx, they are a Torx Plus. So this is a regular T40 on the left, and that's the Torx Plus on the right. You can kind of see the difference. The Torx Plus has got wider, flatter teeth, and that's really what you need to have the best shot at getting these out without stripping them out. What I'll do is take that bit and I'll put it in each one of those and smack the back of it with a hammer first, and then I'll try to take them out. But I've got the intake piping off and out of the way. That's the way I normally do it. You can just take 3 clamps off this way and the whole thing's gone. peanut cover's off. I got all the little Torx head bolts out without stripping any out or breaking any of them off. None of them were very happy about coming out, but they all finally did. So I've got the engine pinned at top dead center compression number 1. I'm not going to get into that right now because I'm going to make another video where I will get into that, and you should see that video sometime after this one. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull the cam gear off, which just consists of these 6 bolts right here, and then that gear will come off. When I get that done, I'll show you what's behind the cam gear and keep moving along. Alright, I've got the cam gear off. All there is to this is a retaining ring and an adapter. So the retaining ring is the part with the 3 bolts in it, and then the adapter is the piece in the center with the dowel sticking out of it. So to take this apart, all you do is pull those 3 bolts out, the ring comes off, and the adapter is what times the camshaft to the cam gear. So it's just sandwiched in between the two, and when you pull the retaining ring off, the adapter will just slip off the camshaft. There's the retaining ring and the 3 bolts. In this case, the adapter doesn't want to come off the camshaft very easily. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. So that's fine. I'll just pull it all out together. Just leave the adapter on the camshaft, pull it out of the engine, and then take the adapter off the camshaft once I get it out. It's way easier that way than trying to get it off right now. Okay, I've got the valve covers off, the Jake housings off, and the rocker arms and shafts out. So I am finally ready to pull the old camshaft out of here. Here's all the top end parts. Jake housings, rocker arms, rocker shafts, and hardware. You guys have seen all this stuff in some of my other videos if you've watched them, so really nothing worth going over again. The old camshaft's gone. So from this point forward, I'm putting it back together instead of taking it apart. That's a good thing. I'm gonna run over and get the marine cam, and bring it over here and stick it in the hole. You can see what I was talking about with this adapter now. I just left it on the camshaft and pulled it all out together. Then gave it a few taps with a rubber hammer, and it'll come right off. Okay, once I get 3 journals in, it's okay to let it hang on its own there. I won't let it hang with any less than 3 journals inside the head. I've got the marine cam in it now. Got the cam gear back on and torqued. Those bolts torqued to 180 plus or minus 30 foot-pounds. Next thing I'll do is put the peanut cover on, and then I'm all done with the front gear train. The reassembly is pretty much just the opposite of taking it apart, so I'm not going to show a whole lot of that. I am going to make an overhead video when I run the overhead on this, so that's the other video that you'll see sometime after this one. But I'm anxious to get this thing going and see how it does. The marine cam matches a lot better to a set of 55s or 59s. That's nothing new. Pretty much know exactly what they'll do and what to expect there. But I know there are guys that run the marine cam against a set of 57 injectors. I've just never done it myself, so I'm anxious to see exactly how well it works and pull a load with it and all that. So I'm gonna get this thing together. I'll show you guys the startup, and then we'll go for a ride. This is the 10R7155 camshaft, which is better known as the 800 marine cam. It's not only a marine cam, it's also used in a few C18s and a couple other applications too. But when people are putting this cam in a regular truck engine, this is the one they generally refer to as the 800 Marine cam. So I just figured I'd tell you that. So much for leaving the AC system charged up. You hear that hissing and see that big bubble in that hose right there? It just started leaking. I don't have it pulled in a real hard bend or anything, so it's just an old hose. I think that's the original hose to the truck. Best aftermarket equipment you can add to a Peterbilt right there. Peterbilt guys will know what I'm talking about. Quick update. I've got the new Vibertech crank damper on, fan hub swapped out, the belts are on and tight, the overhead is run, the engine is 100% together. So the only thing I'll have to do now is get the radiator and charge air cooler back on the truck, get all the hoses and air intake pipes put back on, a few other little things, and it'll be ready to go. It's all back together and ready to go. I had every intention of doing a time lapse of putting this back together, but the camera operator, which is me, is a dumbass and he had the camera on the wrong setting. So there is no time lapse, and I'm sorry about that. I'll just have to try to do better next time. So anyway, let's fire it up, see if it's gonna run or if it's gonna sling parts everywhere. I'm gonna go haul some rock and I'll bring you along with me.